Hey everybody, it's Ryan from Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. Alright, so I have not talked about a lot about it on this channel, but I am actually, in addition to reviewing games, an aspiring board game designer. I've got a handful of designs that I've been working on and toying around with for the past few years, and one of the things that's very important into the design world is playtesting. Now, playtesting is the idea that what you're basically going to do is play a game a whole bunch of different times with a whole bunch of different people in order to get feedback so you can kind of tweak your game and make it ready to put on the market eventually. All right, so playtesting is extremely important to the overall design process. But there's these events that you can go to called Protospiels, which are all about playtesting. A bunch of designers get together and they just playtest each other's games over and over and over again, trying to kind of get everybody's game to the next level. I've been to some other kind of prototyping events in the past, maybe as a part of a larger convention, maybe one small event within that larger convention. This is the first time I've been to an entire conference or convention or whatever you want to call it that was completely dedicated to designers prototyping their games, which is just a whole lot of fun. So I went to Protospiel Milwaukee. I'm terrible with numbers. I would guess maybe around 100, maybe a little bit more attendees there. A lot of them were just designers playing their games, as well as some playtesters who just came just to playtest and help everybody else out, which is really, really fantastic. So, what can you expect if you go to your first Protospiel event? First of all, one thing to note is everyone wants to play their own games. Everybody wants to take their games out of the box, get them played a lot of times so they can get the most amount of feedback to make their games better. But it's a little bit... There's kind of an unspoken rule where if you've got a game that plays, let's say, 4 players, right? You want to play it with 3 other people and yourself, so that would mean that 25% of the time you're going to be playing your own game. But the other 75% of the time, you're going to kind of do a round robin with the other people that you just played with. You're going to play everybody else's games. That way, you're all playing each other's games. You're all getting equal feedback. It makes it a lot more fair. And frankly, you get exposed to some really cool games and people and ideas that way as well. So don't go into this event thinking, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to set up my table, and everyone's just going to come to me and play my games over for the whole weekend. I'm going to get a bunch of great feedback. You are going to get a bunch of great feedback, but this is kind of a larger community, right? We're trying to make everybody's games better, not just your own. So there's a little bit less, selfishness going on than you might think. All right, so another thing that I think I was worrying about just a little bit was that people were going to steal my game, right? This is the first time a lot of people are going to be debuting their game in front of people that aren't friends and family, and you're worried that one of these designers is going to come by, see your game, play it, and think, you know what, I'm going to steal their idea, I'm going to go make their same game, and then pitch it to a publisher before they can, and then I'm going to get the credit for it. That's not something you have to worry about. That is just too much work. Someone has to, you know more about your game than anybody else at this point. They're going to have to go back home, recreate everything that you've done, physically and kind of mentally, and test it a whole bunch internally on their ends, and then polish it and graphic design, all that stuff before they can pitch it to a publisher. So do not worry about having your game stolen. That is just something that doesn't happen. I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I'm sure once in a million times that there's been some bad apples or whatever, but overall, this is it's just not going to happen statistically. Everyone saw your game out there, so if someone did come up with a stolen version of your game, everyone at the Protospeil event would know, you know what, Ryan over there, he made that game and Bob over there stole it, or whatever the case is. So do not worry about that. Make your game, get it out there, don't hold back, don't just hide under a bushel, work on it internally and hope that eventually someday you can kind of publish it. No, you need to get it out there, you need to get feedback so you can make the best possible version of your game. As far as when people are playtesting your game, they're going to give you a ton of feedback. As far as how to kind of process that all, you kind of have to sift through it all as it's being given to you. First of all, I want to say take down notes. Tons and tons of notes. I cannot stress that enough. Write down everything anybody says. When you get back home, what you want to do is you want to kind of rank it all. So if someone said your game had too much of the color orange in it, and you're going to write that down, and the next time you play the game, someone said the game has too much of the color orange in it. It's like, oh, you know what? Put that down there twice. So I have 2 tally marks on it. Every time you play it, someone says it's got too much orange in it. I don't know why I'm using that as an example. That wouldn't ever be the case, but you can never have too much orange. But if so many people are saying it, you have to add a little bit more weight to that when you're kind of going back and kind of weighing in your mind what to work on in your game next. If one person had a bad experience and they've said, your game sucks, you need to throw it in the garbage, retheme it with space aliens, or whatever the case is, and one person said that, I'm not saying throw that information away per se, but I'm saying make that the bottom of your priority list when you try to go back and rework things when you get back home. Tons and tons of notes. Take all the notes you can. Another thing is, you can probably ignore one bad playtest. Just how you can ignore one bad feedback. If there's one out of the games that you playtest was negative, and there's one loud person saying just awful things about your game, right? Even if some of it's relevant, everybody else at the table is going to be looking at that person and being like, well, I don't want to disagree with them, so I'm just not going to say anything at all, or maybe just kind of nod or whatever. That's the thing. Same thing. Write it all down. Take it in, but at the same time, don't get defensive. Don't start any fights or whatever. It doesn't matter. You're just going to write it down, and you're going to weigh it along with everything else when you get back home. And if that was the only person that said that kind of a thing, it probably doesn't have a whole lot of weight behind it in terms of what you need to be working on. A really great thing is any level of design is welcome at these Protospiel events. Now, if you have a pen and paper kind of a game, you just literally had cards cut out of paper and write on them with pen, bring that game. That game is going to be a lot of fun. Everybody's going to be real excited to be on the ground floor, being able to play this game for the first time or whatever. At the same time, if you've got a game that's nearly completed, has great graphic design already, just kind of needs some maybe final tweaking or balancing, whatever the case is, bring that too. Everything in between. Any level of prototyping is welcome at these Protospiel events. Some of the other events I've been to kind of focus on like the more finished, polished end of things, but that's not quite as exciting, and there's not much feedback that you can provide to that person that's really going to change them. If they've already gone through hundreds and hundreds of playtests and they're at the final edge of that, chances are you saying whatever it is you have to say, they're not going to really looking for a lot of that finished feedback. But earlier on in the process, you can really help shape the course of someone's game and make them have all new insights into their own game that maybe they didn't even have themselves. Also, you can bring more than one game to these events. Now, the more games you bring, the less likely you are to kind of drill down on play one of your games a lot of times to kind of give it the best overall exposure. But at the same time, if you're playing with a group that's, let's say, all loves 4X games and you have a 4X game yourself that you're working on, break that out in front of them. They're going to be able to give you some really valuable feedback. If you're playing with a group of people who are, let's say, into worker placement games, and you're like talking about your 4X game, still get their feedback, obviously, but it's not going to be quite as relevant to what you're trying to do as maybe the 4X group is. So if you have multiple games that you brought along, then what you'll be able to do is kind of match up the people, the audience, with the game that you're working on, so that way it kind of matches things together. All feedback is valuable, but if you get the right audience, it's even more valuable. Okay, so you take a lot of notes, like I mentioned, but also when you're playing other people's games, take a lot of notes of their games as well. This is a full kind of community of designers. A lot of people we met there had known all of each other already from previous events, which is fantastic. And they welcomed us. They were super, super welcoming to me and our group of people as well. But take a lot of notes about their games, get to know their names, play all their games, and exchange contact information, exchange business cards, whatever the case is. If you have their permission, take a picture of the games. That way when you're kind of decompressing when you get back home and thinking about all the games that you had played, you're able to connect the name to the person to the game if you have their contact information in a picture. Don't take pictures without their consent, just because people are a little bit skittish about that kind of thing. But at the same time, I think if they know your intentions are just to kind of be able to connect with them and help them along the way, they're going to be very receptive to that. Like I said, this is a full-on community of designers, and it's a great way to stay in contact. All right, when you're playing someone else's game, you want to figure out what their market is that they're aiming for and what their intentions are for the game. If someone's gung-ho on bringing their game to Kickstarter and they're going to self-publish and they're going to do all these things, I'm going to give some my harshest level of criticisms, because they're going to do it all themselves. You want to make sure they don't go into selling a game with having some major flaws. But if someone's like, you know what, I just want to play a game with me and my family and we're going to have a great time with it, my feedback's going to be a little bit gentler, right? So you want to know what their intentions are with the game and also what kind of market they're aiming themselves for. You have to take yourself out of your own head a little bit. If you've got a party game that you're playing, but you really, really like those heavier Euros, there's no good feedback that you can say by saying there needs to be more worker placement, there needs to be more victory points in that game, there needs to be more math in that game or whatever. No, think about it from the state of the market they're aiming for. They're aiming for a lighter market, mass market party game audience. You have to put yourself in that mindset so you can give the most valuable feedback. And another thing is just give feedback. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, don't hold back. Now, there's ways to do it tactfully, and that's a really important part of this thing. But you have to start by making sure that you notice even the small things. You know what? I noticed how your combat values were perfectly balanced, and I really enjoyed that part of the game. Now, you can still say, but for one thing, I thought that... whatever it is, your special powers seem to be a little imbalanced, and here's why. Based off of the mathematics I was just kind of running in my head as we were playing. Or whatever the case is. You have to give the good and you have to give the bad. But make sure you don't forget the good and make sure you don't forget the bad. And do it all gently. This is someone's baby, right? This is something they've put a lot of work into behind the scenes, and they are, maybe for the first time, breaking out of someone who's not a friend or a family. When you do playtests with friends or family, you can expect a whole lot of positive feedback. Oh, I can't believe you made this game. It's incredible. It's the most wonderful thing ever. I'm having such a great time. This is wonderful. Oh, you're the best. This is going to get published immediately. And then you play it with people who aren't friends and family, and all of a sudden you're hit with, whoa, I've got some work to do. I had no idea. I was listening to all the other playtests I had. Everybody said it was great. And now I'm playing with these designers, and they're saying, I've got stuff I need to work on. I did not expect to hear all that. So when you do give criticism, when you do give those kinds of things, do it gently. Let them know that they're not a bad person. They're not a bad designer. Just there's some things that need work. Don't get caught up in the production value of games too much. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of different variety, all the way from nothingness to really high-end productions at these events. What you really want to focus on is the clarity. If you have some graphic design or some kind of symbols in the game and they're not clear to you or whatever, bring up that part of the graphic design. But if someone's got just a hand-drawn stick figure, they know that that's not what the final art's going to be. There's no reason to even bring that up, right? The production isn't necessarily what they're going for. They're looking for clarity. They're looking for balance. They're looking for is the game enjoyable? Does the game work? Try to poke holes in people's games. Try some strategies that may be unobvious. So if there's a game where there's this linear path to victory points, but there's some other side quests you can do, maybe try taking the side quests. Maybe try doing the weird thing. Maybe try stockpiling resources and see if that breaks the game in some way. Don't do it maliciously or again, but it's just, if those strategies are out there and there's a way that you can break their system, they need to know about that before they go to market. They need to know about that before they go to the next stage in their production. So try some weird stuff. First of all, it might be fun. Second of all, you might find that strategy was viable. They had already thought about it, and they wanted you to do it to see if it balances in with the rest of the point structure or whatever the case is. All right, so some overall general things about Protospiels you might want to keep in mind. These are some long hours. You want to get the most out of this event. You want to be there as early as you can get there. You want to stay as long as you can. So get what sleep you can. You're going to be using your brain a lot. Coming home, my brain was pretty much mush because it felt like I was taking the ACTs, for 3 days straight, the SATs, this high-level math and deduction and reverse engineering things and trying to figure it all out for 3 days straight. It just broke my brain, but it was also very, very satisfying. So grab what sleep you can. Try to bring some snacks. Bring some water with you. You really want to buckle down and grind it out so you get the most value out of it. But you also need some sleep because otherwise you're not going to be helpful, and it's going to be less. You're going to be able to absorb less information about your own games. Another thing I want to point out is it's okay to fail. It's okay to have a game that didn't work. You brought a game there and everyone said it was trash. That's okay. Doesn't mean that you're trash. It doesn't mean that your game design theories are trash. It just means that one of your game ideas didn't work. I've been reading a lot of blog posts and forums and game design books and textbooks and things like that lately over the past couple of years as I've been getting more into this side of things. About 1 out of every 10 good ideas gets published. And that's probably saying 1 out of every 10 ideas made it to the prototyping phase. And out of that, even still, 1 out of 10 made it to the publishing phase. So, if you've got a game that failed, that just means that you're 10% out of the way to getting to your success. You want to get those 9 bad failures out of the way so you can get to that 10th game, which is going to be the one that really works for you. Learn everything along the way that you possibly can. And don't be afraid to shelf an idea. I brought a couple of games to this Protospiel, and one of them I'm shelving. That doesn't mean that it was horrible. It doesn't mean it sucks. It doesn't mean any of that stuff. It just means right now it's not where I want it to be, and I'm not entirely sure how to get to the next level. So I'm just going to shelve it for a little bit. And then later on, maybe in a year, whenever some new thing comes my way or I have some new idea or some new bit of clarity about the game that's coming to me, I might dust it off again, rework it, and then all of a sudden now I've got something there. So don't be afraid to shelf an idea and come back to it later. Don't be afraid to completely start over with a game. Make sure you keep the good stuff. Remember all that feedback that we talked about? You took all those notes and they said, I really loved that one aspect of this game. Well, figure out how to take that one aspect of the game and hang on to that, but maybe throw out everything else. Start over again. Base your new ideas around whatever that really good stuff was. All right, so that's kind of my overall thoughts. I think that just getting it all out there is in one big video of my overall thoughts of my first Protospiel, maybe what you can expect from your first Protospiel event that you're going to go to as well. I'm confident that you've got some good ideas, and the only way to kind of show the world is to playtest. Get blind playtesting done. Go to these Protospieling events or these other unpub events or whatever the case is, where you can get feedback from designers and publishers and playtesters that you aren't in your inner circle, that aren't part of your friends and family or maybe that circle around you. I think it's going to be really valuable for you, and you're going to be able to make some pretty great games as a result. All right, so now, most of this is Ryan and Bethany board game reviews. So most of our content is going to be about reviews. That being said, if you like this design stuff, if you want me to have more videos about board game design, or if you want me to start maybe chronicling some of the design things that I'm going through, if you want to hear more about that kind of content, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to know if this is getting any value to you guys out there. If this is something that you guys we just want to get back to the reviews. That's fine. Let me know that too. I'm not going to have my feelings hurt. I just had people make fun of my games for 3 days straight. So I'm ready for it. But at the same time, let us know what kind of feedback you want to hear. Whether you like the design stuff, the review stuff, if you like any kind of board game content, let us know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear all of that stuff. So yeah, a big thanks to the Protospiel Milwaukee group, Stan, Eric, everyone who helped out with that, everyone who play-tested games, everyone who showed up and gave great feedback. Thank you to all of you. That was so much fun. I will not forget that event, and I will be back to more Protospiel events in the future to kind of get my games to the next level. As always, if you haven't before, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We would really appreciate it. Throw a like on this video and put a comment down below letting us know your thoughts. We really appreciate that. And you can leave a tip down below. There's a link to our Ko-Fi account if you were interested in any of the things we were talking about. You can subscribe to us. We have all our social media channels here. We'd love to hear from you on any of those areas. You guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.